Welcome to Kytchens Konnect. Today we are in conversation with Pooja Dhingra from Law 50 and Priyanka Sahu, who is part of our team. Pooja, thank you for doing this.
Hi.
This is amazing. Hi. But yeah, thank you for doing this. We've been trying to get you on this podcast for a while. I know you wear many hats and are always busy. So thank you for doing this. This is great. Priyanka and me were discussing about, we want to do this and what kind of questions we want to ask you. I was like, everything and anything that has been sort of people want to know has been asked. Like I know you've done interviews, you do your own podcast, you're a celebrity in your own right, other than just the brand. The brand is phenomenal. So today I'm going to be asking very unconventional questions because just it's interesting of a few things that I personally want to know.
Sure.
And Priyanka will sort of ask what she wants to know. And the whole idea here is just to have fun and sort of get to know the person behind the brand, the product, and everything. Like I said, you wear many hats, right? There is the whole celebrity chef angle, the brand angle. Prior to this, the questions we'll ask about what you did before you got into being a pastry chef, all of that. But I think the greatest strength you have is that you're a great marketer. I think to be here and what you've done is just great marketing and just to like sort of continually innovate, continue reinvent yourself, sort of to get to this point and sort of you're only growing from strength to strength. So A, where do you find the time? And B, how do you just come up with these ideas?
Thank you for all of that. And everyone says this to me. And when I was younger, I would take great offense in people saying, "Oh, this is marketing, and you're such a good marketer." I was like, so I would say that, "Oh, does that mean that the product is not good?" And it's only much later that I realized that what sales, like having a great product plus having great marketing leads to actual revenue, and they cannot function without each other. So now I wear it with pride. How I got there or how it I think it's something that comes quite naturally, because if I truly believe in something, and whether it's my product or not, I will go out and talk about it. And I feel like that's also how people function, right? When you love a product and you love an experience or a brand, you generally go and talk to different people about it. I think that works more than spending any kind of advertising money, especially in the food industry.
Sure.
And I think that's what I've done so far. Like I've just made sure that that I truly create something that I'm proud of and constantly keep checking on that. It's never like, oh, it's done now and I've made it. It's never that. It's always like, how can we get better? Is it still consistent? Who is ordering from us? Why are they coming back to us? And so that keeps that part alive. And then the other is, once you're happy with that, then I'm just really an excited person who loves talking about what I do. So there's no like right answer to this question. It's just about being really passionate about the product, Low 15 as a brand, and just everything else that I do.
Sure. No, so like you said, the product, I think consistently now that Kytchens is working with you and you are out of so many of our kitchens and, we help you to expand the delivery reach. But the product has always been consistent. Every time the product goes out and the customer feedback is always great. They don't find that I've ordered it today and I ordered the other day and it's not the same. So how do you sort of keep a hold on that? Like how do you manage to, because a lot of brands start off really well, but they find difficulty just keeping consistency the more locations you go to.
I mean, it's we're 13 years old now, right? And for me, it's always been, and there are some days where we have, still there's a human element to this whole process, and sometimes we do mess up.
Sure.
But in the 13 years, that the percentage of messing up is quite minimal compared to how often we get it right. But it's processes, I started this very young, and when you're a passionate baker or a chef, you know how to do one thing once, but then the idea is how do you remove the person from it and let the process take over. So that is again something that came to me with a lot of learning and making many mistakes and getting things wrong and realizing, so from a lot of things not going the way I wanted it to then converting that and making it process driven. I think that has been quite important and key to getting it right. And then it's just like that drill of, every day that it has to be the same and it can't. And I think that's what I hope I keep imparting to the team. And I, wish that because it's very easy to make one good thing one day, but it's very easy to mess it up and then lose all the goodwill that you've created over the years as well. Yeah. And to me, that's very important, and we keep driving it. I know our quality managers keep coming for checks, and they have many issues always. But it's why we are able to stay true to what we believe in.
You said 13 years of Love 15, right?
Yeah.
I was on my drive here, I was like, how long do I know Pooja? I put down the number to 15, but 13 years, great.
But I knew you like just as, I think as 13 and a half it's been now.
Yeah.
I think I've known you since we started, and it's been since, I remember Love 15's first birthday we've celebrated, and then so after that, so it's been a long journey.
No, so that's what I was going to, I've seen the journey, right? From from your first kitchen to the studio, then coming here. But again, you've always innovated. Like you said that, it took time and whatever, but everything I've seen you do has always been sort of perfect. Like it's always been that this is how I want it, and you've figured out,
that maybe that's how it appears, which is wrong.
Yeah. So touch up a little bit on that, how you.
I think everything is a lot of trial and error, and things really take a lot of time to come to life, right? Whether it's writing a book, whether it's producing a podcast, whether it's creating a new product. Sometimes you have an idea in your head, and then to see it translate into reality, and then to make sure that the team can execute your idea of what, So it does take a lot of time. It is a very frustrating process, but the light at the end of the tunnel is that, an idea that lived in your head is now alive. And for me, that's the motivation to do what I do. But it is a grueling process, and it's a process that has a lot of discipline. I think people don't understand. People think that, you think of something one day and the next day it's just there. It's the discipline to keep following through even when you're failing. So even the first macaron recipe, right? I failed so many times, and it was not about or more than our normal macaron, our eggless macaron recipe. I think that was a 2-year process, and it reached a point where I gave up for 5 months. Because I was like, I failed so many times practicing this recipe or trying to perfect it. It's not what I believe in. It's not what I like. I'm going to pause.
Yeah.
And then just taking that distance from it, and then picking it up 5 months later and saying, okay, let's start. And then, pushing through it, finally reaching a product where I'm like, oh, I love this product. I'm so happy with it. But it takes that whole circle, and it takes time, and it takes you that consistency and discipline to get it to come alive. So, it doesn't, I wish it was just magically happened, but the BTS of it is a lot of work.
No, so that's the thing, that a lot of people think it just magically happens. Everybody think, hey, Pooja does this, and it just clicks or falls in place, all of these things.
And so many things fail.
Exactly.
There are maybe 5% things that do really well and succeed, and then there are so many things that just don't. And then that's like my passion fruit macaron. Okay, I love it. It's my favorite flavor. And every time I bring it back, everyone I meet, they say, oh, I love it, but no one buys it.
Sure.
So it's my favorite flavor, but I can't have it on the menu because it just doesn't sell.
Yeah.
So it's heartbreaking. And then you're just like, okay, I'll just make it for myself.
Everybody knows you as the macaron queen of India. A, what do you feel of that tag? B, because you were sort of the industry leader in sort of introducing something like that in the country. Now there is, Dime a Dozen trying to copy it. All the international chains have come in and they're trying to do it. So sort of, how was the journey sort of trying to introduce this product? Like you said, took you a lot of time to sort of get it perfect and work for the Indian audience. But a category you created, now you see more challengers come in and more people sort of in that space. So A, more the merrier, I would say. But B, you still managed to hold on to your market share and sort of, hold on to the product. So what next also after that?
I feel like I'm in fact happy that there are so many people doing the same thing, because for a long time, like when I started, nobody knew what a macaron is, right? I went back to my school to give a talk the other day to Bombay Scottish, and they were about 10-year-olds, 9, 10, 11-year-olds. And when I asked, it was like 300 of them. And when I asked a question, I was like, how many of you guys know what a macaron is? And all hands went up. And I asked, how many of you guys have tasted a Love 15 macaron? And all hands went up. And I was like, this is the work that I've been doing. Because when I came back from Paris, firstly, when I went to Paris, I didn't know what a macaron was.
Sure.
And when I came back, not many people knew. Like I had to stand in like fairs and exhibitions with tables and explain to people, oh, this is almond flour, it's not a cream biscuit, this is why it's expensive. And, do that whole education. I just feel when there are more people, category openers coming in that have a lot of money to spend and get people, knowledgeable about the product, not only Bombay, but across the country. For me, it's a great opportunity. I'm like, oh, now I don't have to be the only one talking about it.
Sure.
let other people also talk about it. We are confident about our product. It'll just help us reach a deeper, markets and wider markets. So for me, I see it as I don't have to do it alone.
True.
You can spend money on it and educate people also.
Great answer. I think that, it's just more the merrier. But in terms of now, from just macarons to cupcakes to cakes, now you have cakes of Love 15, and now to FMCG products, which is your cookies. So is that a journey that will continue? Are you looking more towards in-store retail kind of products that you're innovating on, or is it going to be more like FMCG products which sort of reach out to a wider audience, considering now that you're doing MasterChef and, your brand Pooja and brand Love 15 is only going to get better and bigger. But there are people all over India who are going to see you on TV, on this show and want to experience your product. So is the FMCG more the way to go, or is it still going to be, one day shelf life products?
So, the thing we realized many years ago for Love 15 was that we had a very big brand and we didn't have enough product. We were very localized, but people from outside of Bombay, whenever they would come to, especially when we had the cafe, that's when I interacted with a lot of our customers. People would come from Pune, would come from Nagpur, would come from Delhi to Bombay, and then they would make sure to put the cafe on their list. And they would come and meet us, and, they would be so excited to be there. And we just realized back then itself, so this is like 2017, 2018, that the real scale of this business was only come if we have products that we can scale. The macarons are great, and we've managed to now figure out a way in which we can increase the shelf life and we can distribute them for longer. The cupcakes, unfortunately, for us are still a one-day shelf life product. But then the exciting thing is like the cookies and the hot chocolate mixes. We've seen in 1 year already, it's already become 30% of our revenue, and it's growing really fast, and we're doing it really still very small scale from Bombay. So if we have the infrastructure and we have the opportunity to grow that really, I think the business potential of that is huge. And definitely as the brand grows, because we are a very Mumbai brand now, but with, things like the show, etc., we will be, recognizable in other cities. And then definitely there's a big business opportunity there for the product. So for me, real scale of the business will definitely come from the packaged products with higher shelf lives. And I don't want to now start creating products that, when someone asked me like many years ago, what is your vision for Love 15? And I would always just laugh and say world domination, right? Like without understanding what that meant. And only like in the last couple of years, I started defining what that meant for me. And I wanted Love 15 to become a brand that's easily available and that's available in every pantry. So now that I think about it, I'm like, what are the daily consumption items that most homes have? Sure. And slightly move away from the high sugar, high dessert sort of level and see what is it that we can create that becomes part of your daily pantry. So that's the route that we are, working on now, and still creating products with the same ethos of like no preservatives, high quality ingredients, cleaner labels.
Sure.
So that's the plan now.
Like you said, it was one of the questions. Like, earlier when you started the product and it was a different audience and people were not so much conscious about sugar and how much they ate and all of that. So that's a great thing that you brought up, that, you're looking at the pantry and what more you can add in that sense. But also with the evolving audience and your audience continuously changing, but also going to, this tier 2, tier 3 markets, which now you'll be accessible in. How will you define the mix? And also coming back to when you did the cafe experiment, I thought it was a great experiment that, you had this lovely cafe, which also did a lot of savory, which was also interesting. Are you going to relook at savory and try to do more things in savory, or always will it just be now a patisserie journey?
It's too early to say. We might experiment with a flagship cafe again. And I think that it's very important for us to have experiential centers for people to come, see, feel, touch the brand, because once they do that, then it becomes a lot easier for them to connect with something they see on a shelf as well, because otherwise, it's only something. So I do think that having one big, nice experiential center in each city would be my dream. The reality of making that happen and what the costs and what the operations would be like, that's something we're still figuring out.
Sure. Can you sort of give us numbers? Because everybody talks about, hey, you have great product, you have this, but some of the numbers, so people realize that, hey, this is not just hunky-dory and it's an easy business. Is this kind of effort, time, monies that goes into it? So it's sort of just basic numbers that sort of, people who are listening to understand, because we have a lot of industry people who also watch this show and they would also sort of get an insight into it.
Yeah. So I'm not good.
No, not sales but just like sort of economics or...
I mean, we're still at 6 of our own stores, and we're about at 4
yes.
kitchens.
Yeah.
So that's 10 stores in Bombay. We work out of a 5,000 square feet kitchen. We have about 104 people on our payroll. We are in about 120 general trade stores in Bombay, which is a category A GT store. We're in about 50 modern trade stores across Bombay. We're on Swiggy, Instamart across 7 cities. And now we're probably going to be launching our macaroons on Instamart as well. So that's our next development that we're trying to do. Yeah, that's
amazing. That's those numbers, even just to remind these numbers are great.
So any fundraising plans on the anvil?
We want to. We're just trying to figure out what the next direction should be. Because if we want to do and scale the CPG business, then it makes sense. There's a lot of money in the market anyway, and everyone's really happy to give you the cash. But for me, it's more about getting a strategic partner who understands how to grow this business now. Because for me, I'm very sure I know this is what I'm really good at. This is what I can do. But how do I take this? I don't probably have the capability of taking it, 0 to 1 easy, but then from 1 to then take it to 10 requires a different kind of skill set. So I'm hoping to find someone who can partner with us and say, okay, we can help you, reach there. So that would be exciting.
How do you decide your challenges, right? This whole Mount Fuji thing is happening, and
guitar is happening.
I've known you for the longest, and it's always been on your bucket list for a while.
Yeah.
So now that sort of you've gotten there, what is the next thing on your bucket list? How do you think about these things?
It comes to me. I always say the challenges pick you, and you don't pick the challenge. I've done some weird stuff also. I've done dancing on stage.
Yes.
I did that for 3 years, hip hop.
Wow.
Then last year was guitar, so I've been learning the guitar. This year was Fuji. Then I'm doing some Bandra Marathon in November. 1 year was the Mumbai Half Marathon. 1 year was speaking in French in France in front of 5,000 people. I don't know. Next year's challenge will come. It will arrive at some point, and I'll say, okay, maybe I'll do a cooking show and move away from baking and something.
We'll definitely have more art in your day than all of us.
Not at all. And it's just discipline. It's just discipline and carving out. And this is the thing, right? Most people think that big things happen. Oh, you have so much time. No, it's about setting how much time? 20 minutes a day. But you do it over time, and then that builds your, right? If I'm learning guitar, I've just been very disciplined to do it twice a week. My teacher comes to the kitchen for 1 hour, and it's just 2 hours a week. And in a year, you're like, okay, I'm play the guitar, right? So it's not about, it's about just choosing. It's about 20 minutes of walking or running every day, but doing it consistently till one day you're like, oh, I'm fit enough to do much longer things, right? So I know when people say they do so many things, it's really overwhelming, and you think, oh my God, how much is it? And I used to think the same, but it's really just carving out 20-30 minutes of your day, but doing it consistently and having the discipline to do it every day. And then one day you look back and you're like, I've achieved so much. And that's where the real, magic is in discipline.
Amazing. So when you started back in the day, I'm sure there would be enough number of challenges, right? Like as a woman entering a male-dominated industry. You've spent enough time in the industry now, have seen the changing times. Do you still think there are certain challenges that exist for women entrepreneurs in this industry?
I think entrepreneurship in itself is extremely challenging, irrespective of gender. For women, yes, when I was younger, there were different challenges. I was very naive and I didn't look at it as a gender challenge. I looked at it more as an age challenge. And for sure, there are, I would lie if I said that it's easy and there are no challenges. What they are and how they come up, I'm still discovering every day. But they're there, and I'm sure for you as well, right? Like you're in your entrepreneurial journey, irrespective of gender, you're faced with a different challenge every day, and you're like, what will come up today?
No.
What is today's? And then I would When I was younger, I would get overwhelmed, get stressed. And then over time, when you deal with enough of them, you kind of find your groove. And then I feel like over the last year, again, I've started getting like overwhelmed and stressed, and I have to remind myself that just calm down. It happens and you'll figure it out. It's not like, so yeah.
Sure. And what is that one advice you would give to your younger self that could have changed your journey? That you think could have changed your journey?
Have more confidence in yourself. I think a lot of it was me just not believing in my own skills and abilities, and it took a pandemic to kind of make me realize what I was made of. I just wish if I knew those things when I was younger, I would have taken different decisions.
Let's talk a little bit about. I know it's still early in the journey, but how is the MasterChef journey been so far?
It's too soon to tell. I've only been on set for 3 days, so I'm just. It's overwhelming sometimes. It's also really great to be with these two legends. I'm surrounded with them, and they're just so loving and affectionate, and they make sure they like take care of me and make me feel really comfortable at home. And the whole team is great. I don't know. Everyone says it's going to be life-changing and life-altering, and I'm excited to see what really happens when the show goes live. Sometimes I'm like, what if people hate me? And oh my God, like I have a brand in India. So what if they, if I'm like judging things, what if they go super harsh and start judging me? And so I'm always like thinking of these things. But at the end of the day, like on Sunday, we had a really, really long day. And it was, for me, the experience of seeing, they had people from all over India, like some places that I was like, wow, this, and the cuisines that we tried. And even though it was a long, overwhelming day, an exhausting day, at the end of it, I was just like, wow, I got to learn new things today, and I got to taste new things today, which normally I wouldn't have had. And I'm the kind of person that loves learning something new. So for me, when I came, I was sitting in the car and I was like, wow, it was such a great day. So I'm just hoping to keep learning. And
also, like you said, we are one of the few judges now on the show who actually built a brand in India from scratch, has a successful product out there, was always product, brand that you've built so far. So you've gone from a product person and a brand person to now a celebrity chef tag, whereas most of the people, the judges who have been there always have been celebrity chefs or always have been on TV. So sort of, how do you sort of, like for me, it's exciting that, they've gone to this, like got someone on board who has seen this journey, because Vikas is great, Ranveer is great, but most of them have restaurants internationally, not doing that much in India other than TV in that sense. So it's just, for me, it's interesting, and I'm glad that they've gone through it, but I guess it will come with its own challenges for you.
100%. And I was just talking to one of my closest friends last night, and I was talking to her about like, it's difficult because suddenly, like, I've always enjoyed some limelight in my own manner, and on social media I kind of now know how to deal with positives, negatives, and 13 years of running something, you've seen the ups and downs, so you kind of have your feet like firmly on the ground, because like nothing is permanent and all of that. But this is a whole new different level of exposure, and I don't know what it'll bring. It does scare me, but my friend was just like, she's like, you're very brave. I think this is a very brave thing to do. And for me as well, I just felt like if I don't do this, I'll just be stuck in the same place doing the same things and not really moving forward in life. If I let the fear of this stop me, and then we were just like, dar ki aage jeet hai. So I'm just hoping that I can move past the fear and actually just see the good stuff that comes after.
I'm sure it'll be excellent in that sense. I think the show will be good.
Yeah, we've seen some of the reels at least that you did with
that's the funnest, it's the funnest part.
Amazing.
Because chef is just like, he's like, you have to not, he's like, the one thing I'll tell you is just never take yourself too seriously. And I think that's great, because the minute you start doing that, like that's when,
you can calm down and do things.
You're just like, have fun. So I was like, whatever you want to do, I'm here, let's do it.
It was super fun. It was really enjoyable.
The other thing I also admire about what you've done, and you can touch up or share tidbits on it, but basically now in the realm out there's brand Pooja and there's Love 15, the brand. And I think they both have carved out their own sort of identity. So, it's been an interesting journey. But I feel brand Pooja today is a much stronger brand and product than Love 15. Yes, Love 15 will grow on its own, and it has, like you said, ups and downs and all of that. But was it a conscious decision, or did it just happen?
It's so funny. Like a couple of weeks back, I started working with a new business consultant, and we were just talking about Love 15 and Pooja, and I was like, oh, this whole, because nothing was ever planned, and it's just doing what you do, right? And she's like, I would keep going to Love 15 because I live close to your Bandra store. I had no idea who you were till you reached out to me. So she's like, let me burst your bubble. People who go to Love 15 go to it because they love it and they love the product, not because of you, because I was a customer and I didn't know you. And that made me so happy, actually. It made me really happy. And then I met a few friends, kids the other day who were like 10 or 11, and they've been eating Love 15 since they were little. And then the mom was like, she was Love 15, and they couldn't believe that there was a person behind the brand. Because for them, Love 15 was just their happy place. They would go pick up their pink cupcakes and macarons. So I think it's very important to also not have a very small vision of what's happening, that because, otherwise it just becomes an echo chamber and you start thinking that that's your reality. The matter of the fact is, a lot of people who order from delivery or who order, they don't know who runs Love 15. A lot of them think it's an international. For so long, a lot of people just thought it's some international brand that's from somewhere and that's come to India. They didn't know what the story is. So that makes me really happy, because then that removes the dependency of a person on the brand, and it keeps, it'll just have a longer legacy and it will keep going on. For me personally, it was never like I want to give a really smart answer here, but I don't have one. Like for me, it was just staying true to what you do, and in all times just being your authentic self, right? And now this thing about authenticity also has become a big conversation. But for me, it was especially like, if I was feeling sad, and I use Instagram as my main tool for so many years, right? So it was never about what my grid should look like or how perfect this grid is. I didn't care about any of that. It was always about like, if my feet are tired today, I'm going to talk about how it's tired. If I'm crying about something, I will cry about something. And I think that honesty and that being vulnerable, which I also think is hard to do, because you're putting yourself out there, and for your team you want to always be like, I'm strong, and I'm like, you're human and you can't always be strong. And I think that's just what helped build, because a lot of people are like, if she can do it, we can do it too. I love what she's doing, and I think that it's easily achievable. So there was never really any thought of like, I want to go out and build this brand and do X, Y, Z. Like even the podcast, right? Yeah. The podcast started because I was having a really tough time at work, and it was hard to build a business and multitasking, do all these things. And I wanted to talk to people in the industry and know their stories. So it really started with identifying a problem and saying the problem is relatable because a lot of people are going through it. And then let's just talk about it. And then I think that's what connects with people, instead of like, just doing something because. So I always follow that, and then that somehow seems to work.
Interesting. So Pooja, because you said entrepreneurship and you've lived this journey for 13 and a half years, and because we have our entrepreneurial business with Kytchens, and the whole idea of this podcast is called Kytchens Konnect, which sort of gives people who are in the industry or the food industry insights into how people have built their businesses. So everybody's seen your journey, everybody has seen the regular questions, read articles, heard your podcast. But what are the key elements as an entrepreneur that you should have? Like, I know you have a great design agency because your products always look fantastic. So what are the few facets that somebody who's studying on business or is already in business should look at or pay more attention to?
It's a great question. I think and this is something that a common friend of ours, Mangal, had told me many years ago, said the whole point of starting a business is that it functions without you someday.
Sure.
So I think the key as an entrepreneur starting a business is like, how do you set all the wheels in motion so that one day everything is moving without you having to be there every single day. So whether that's a great design agency, whether that's figuring out all your processes and having processes in place for each and everything, different teams who, I think your team is your core and your backbone. So when you start young and when you start small, obviously that's not possible. And a lot of people are like generalists, but as you grow, how do you get people to specialize and do certain things? So I think that it's a combination of team plus understanding where, getting really people that are really smarter than you. That thing about if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that. I feel like as an entrepreneur, you always have to keep learning. And if you know everything or you feel like you know everything, that's the end. Yeah.
So while I was driving here, I was going through reels and I came across a reel where Shah Rukh was there. And I think you imbibed that, where he said, you can never say that I don't have time for something. Where he's like, I sleep 3 hours a day or whatever, but I make sure I have time for my kids. I go to the gym, I do this, I do that. But he's like, you cannot be successful if you say I don't have time for something, or that I have to go on this holiday, or I have to take this time off, or I have to. So it's about making time. So I think you imbibe that and you always are able to make time for it. And I think that's one of your key strengths or goals. I just wanted to put it out there. But yeah.
Thanks.
So kudos on that. Like just to make, like, I in my daily life struggle.
No, but it's very important to know what to say no to.
True.
In fact, instead of saying yes to everything, is always very important to say what to say no to. And to realize what is it that you want to make time for. So I'm in the last 3 years, I've come ruthless. Like I say no to a lot of things, especially after work. And I know that if I want to spend time with my family, my friends, I prioritize it. And then it's the only way. Otherwise, you'll always be torn and struggling. And yeah, it's tough.
So what are the top 3 things that you've learned in your journey that have shaped you, that you are now today?
One is ask the right questions. I think many a times we just take things for granted or say that, oh, this is how it is because it's always been done like that.
Yeah.
Even if it makes you feel stupid, even if you feel like this won't make me sound really dumb, it doesn't matter. Ask the question. Second is stop second guessing yourself. Like, even though I had so much like inexperience when I started, I somehow feel that I was a much more confident person in my skill set when I was younger, because experience makes you start second guessing yourself. So I think that would be another one. And the last one is actually something Tim Cook told me when he was here, and I asked him a similar question about, and he told the team as well, he's like, remember that joy is in the journey. So when you're building anything, it's the day-to-day and it's what you're doing every day to get to somewhere, to your destination that actually matters, and not, so remember that to just have fun every day. Yeah.
Yes. Cool. And what are the plans for Low 15? Any collaborations in the pipeline, new product?
We have a lot of stuff happening in the festive season. We're really excited about like Diwali and Christmas, and we have 2 new cookies launching. We have these jumbo macaroons that we're launching. So that's exciting, and all of that is coming out now. And then beyond that, I don't know. We'll see. At this stage, I'm like,
It's a surprise.
yeah, let's just take it as it comes.
Awesome. And any ideas in the works from your Japan trip?
There's a matcha cheesecake macaron that's coming out soon, which is delicious. And maybe macaron milkshakes that I tested. So we're still working.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds super interesting.
And delicious.
So we'll do a quick and fun rapid fire. So who's your industry crush?
My industry crush, Chef Manu Chandra.
What about ice cream? Is there any ice cream?
I would love to do ice cream. I just don't want to do the back end work of it at all. But I love ice cream, and I feel like there's so much potential to do so many things with ice cream. So yeah, one day for sure.
True. What is your favorite restaurant in India?
Putting me on the spot here. I Swiggy a lot right now. So I'll show you my Swiggy list.
Sure.
So like Bombay Canteen or Pedro. I go to Bombay Salad a lot in Bandra. Bougie Cafe in Bandra. So it's not like, I like places that are not like that are easy, that are chill, that have good food. It's also the company you go with. So yeah.
Your favorite dish?
In life?
In life.
That's very hard. But I would say Varan Bhat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah.
Favorite mithai?
Favorite mithai, challenging again, but I love Kaju Katli and Rasmalai. Milk cake also.
Have you tried doing a version of your own milk cake?
I have, but some things I don't want to mess with, I just want to enjoy it.
And the Ted Lasso, is it going to be available more in stores more often, or is it still going to be like a...
Again, I would love to work on the shelf life of it because I feel like those biscuits are really the best when they come out of the oven and for a maximum of 1 day, and then the next day they just... That's why we were doing pre-orders because we really wanted people to have that fresh experience. But if I manage to do the same thing and increase the shelf life by even a couple of more days and give the same experience, then it'll be a full-time thing.
Okay. What's your poison?
Everything. At the end of a long day, whatever's available.
Okay. Cheat meal?
Cheat meal. Pizza.
Favorite drink?
Depending on the day, but it's usually gin with something. Drink meant like non-alcoholic, I don't even know. Black coffee, favorite drink. All this.
Pet peeves?
People that are rude and that are rude to like their teams.
And one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
That sometimes you do know enough. Stop doubting yourself so much. Finding that balance between both.
Cool. Okay.
Do you have like a mantra or something that you say every morning to sort of psych yourself up for the day?
It keeps changing, but nothing very specific. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And something that you always tell your team?
The mantra actually is thoughts become things. So whenever my mind is going a little bit off, I keep reminding myself that you control your reality, so keep bringing it back. Something I tell my team, they really, get annoyed, but I always tell them that the secret ingredient is always love. So that's one thing, like I'll always go to them and be like, how much love have you put in it today? And they just like roll their eyes.
So sweet.
And now and then they'll be like this much and this much. So.
And who do you rely on the most in office?
My brother Varun, who helps with operations and finance.
Awesome. Coffee. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you so much.
I'm waiting for my hamper.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's on the board.
Perfect.